You know, media is very important. We all look at programs like this one every day, and we sometimes don't even consider what we're looking at and what impact it has on us in a very deep and intrinsic way. Joining us today is Jennifer Saunders, who is a media specialist. She is an educator, she's a filmmaker, and most importantly, she has a perspective about what we look at and how we're impacted by it. Welcome to For My People.
Thank you, Ron.
Tell me, what is our viewing habit in terms of television and film? I mean, what do we do? What are we really looking at? How does it impact us from an intellectual and say to speak, emotional level?
Well, Ron, one of the primary things we need to be aware of is that after watching 4 hours of television, our brain slows down 7 times the rate.
Seven times
the rate. And that what we need to do is begin to learn how to interact with television and look at what we're looking at. Colors affect us physiologically. Light and motion, the camera's constantly moving. The objective of television is to make something pleasing to the eye, to keep your attention. And if you look at television very closely, there's constant motion. Look at your commercials. And what actually happens is people fall into a state of hypnosis when they're watching television.
When you say hypnosis, normally people think about hypnosis as somebody standing over you and swinging something in front of you, and then you fall asleep and they make you act like a chicken or whatever. I mean, it's not that kind of thing.
But it's pretty much the same concept.
Right.
If we look at television, there's constant motion. There's constant light. It's swinging back and forth. We have in television what we call vectors of motion. So that you...
Explain that. What is a vector of motion?
Vector of motion is when you have motion, and it's very exacting science, so I'm not able to give you all the details in a short time, but I'll say this, that with motion that goes up, it should be followed by motion that goes to the right, then motion that may go down, then motion that will go to the left, so that there's a constant flow, circular flow back and forth. And what it basically does is put you into a state of hypnosis. This way, advertisers and different people who want to sell to you have you in a psychological state that's much more receptive to buying their products.
Now let's talk about something in terms of what you're doing as an instructor. You're teaching on the East Coast.
Yes.
And in your classes, when we look at, say for instance, how the media impacts specifically African-American audiences, what is the difference, or is it similar to everybody else?
Well, there's similarity and there are differences. One of the similarities is that what we're finding today is that media divides along the lines of race, class, and sex. You have one person today owning half of all of the media in the country.
Who is that one person?
I believe that's Ted Turner.
Okay.
We have, as a matter of fact, about 3% of the people controlling 97% of the wealth of the country. And we have about 17 media companies today that own all of media. So we have what we call a media monopoly. So basically what we're looking at is hypnotizing our whole group of people, that's everybody in the country, through movies, television, so on and so forth, into a state of consumer consumption.
That sounds very ominous. I mean, when you say that, it sounds like the X-Files or something. You know, you got people like just sitting there, just staring at the stuff, and you got them doing whatever you want them to do.
Pretty much. When we begin to understand the physiological effect of color, when we see color, like for example, when you see red, you automatically react, your body reacts. You know, although a bull cannot see, he can sense red, and that's what the bullfight is all about. We also have discovered that we can sense colors. If you look in your grocery store, almost every piece of packaging has a piece of red in it. That's for a reason. Red naturally makes us aggressive, passionate, either angry or thirsty or hungry. There was a time when restaurants always had red in there so that it would increase your appetite.
I never realized that.
So not only does color have an effect, but numbers have an effect.
Right.
Filmmakers, those of us who want to draw the audience in, learn the subliminal techniques to keep your attention and pretty much to motivate you to do what we want you to do.
Like why the commercial volume is normally louder than, say, for instance, normal programming?
Yes.
Right. So,
Yes.
you focus in on that.
Yes, yes. We teach students how to read the subliminal suggestion inherent in films.
What classes do you teach, by the way?
I teach American film.
And you teach it where?
I teach at Rutgers University in Newark, and I also teach the art and history of film. And I teach students how to interact with television and films.
Now let's look at you as a filmmaker. Have you produced something recently, or are you planning to produce something? And how is it for an African-American woman in terms of production these days?
It's very difficult.
Yeah.
It's extremely difficult. It is very promising. Our hope is with the young children. What I am first attempting to do is to teach more young people how we should use film, particularly young African-American men and women, how this tool should be used to help empower our community. There are certain techniques and rules that should be followed so that we use film to empower us rather than to put us into a state of either denial, hypnosis, or make us psychologically feel inferior.
What are those techniques?
One of the techniques, Akhenaten said 4,000 years ago, we should only show the victories and achievements of our people.
Now, Akhenaten, you're talking about from the ancient kingdom of Kemet, or what we know as Egypt.
Yes.
Right.
That's key. We, African Americans, should never see ourselves being defeated on film. We should never see ourselves bitten by dogs, hosed down. We shouldn't see ourselves being shot, cut. We should always win and be victorious. This is the way people use the medium to build their people up.
So
And we should always, our films should always not only end with us winning, but they should motivate us to do something positive.
You were telling me earlier that we never saw John Wayne lose.
You never saw John Wayne lose, and that was for a reason. During World War II, you never saw the American troops lose. That was for a reason. People got up, left the theaters, were so inspired, they went and signed up for the war.
Okay.
Out of 65,000 cowboy films made in this country, only one showed the cowboys losing.
65,000.
65,000.
Over what period?
Since the beginning of American film history. There have been 65,000 cowboy films that have been made.
But the Indians always lost.
The Indians always lost. And if you remember when you were a child, you always wanted to be a cowboy. Subconsciously, no one wants to identify with a loser.
You know, you brought some items that you were referring to about a gentleman who has produced a video and also books that sort of reinforce the concept that you're suggesting for children.
Yes. His name is Dr. Edward Robinson. He's a noted scholar in Philadelphia. He's done a lot of scientific research concerning film. A lot of the things I'm mentioning now, I've learned from Dr. Robinson. He has produced a film, a cartoon, an animated cartoon for children entitled The Songhai Princess.
And the Songhai Princess basically says what?
The Songhai Princess starts, first of all, from the premise that our history should be learned starting with Africa and not slavery. We should always use a reference point when we were up, when we were at a high point rather than a low point. So the Songhai Princess deals with some historical figures, Queen Zinga, Imhotep. She's a little baby girl who gets captured by an evil witch, and Imhotep leaves the medical school to go and to save her. And what it does, Ron, is it helps to first explode the myth that Africans did not contribute anything to world civilization and that we were in jungles and huts. Many of our ancient African ancestors were snatched out of classrooms. Dr. Edward Robinson believes that it's very important that we learn the truth about Songhai and where we came from. There were 3-story marble brick homes, a Bank of Janneh, University of Sankore, which had 1,400 university professors.
And so Songhai is the West African, basically, if you can talk about it geographically in terms of Africa. It was basically most of what we now know as West Africa.
Yes.
Right.
Ghana,
Right.
It was the Mali Empire, which joined the Songhai Empire, which eventually was larger than all of Rome.
So essentially, your focus in relationship to dealing with these kinds of items is to basically transform what you see as a self-defeating, self-destructive framework through the use of film.
Yes. Not only that, but not only do African Americans need to know the truth of where they're from, but white people also need to know that we contributed to world civilization, that we weren't just in the jungle and they came, got us out of Africa, brought us here and civilized us.
So when we look at the things that you're going to do in the future in terms of your productions, they will also have the same theme?
Yes, we need to start first with Songhai, explode the myth of the African, and then show ourselves winning in films.
Thank you very much. For My People has been speaking with Jennifer Saunders, filmmaker, educator, and also promoting, dealing with the media and subliminals. So we'll be talking to her in the future. I'm sure we'll see more of her work. Thank you for joining us on For My People today.
Thank you.
Okay.